cocaine, and they found the baby oils and the condoms and whatnot. And Jane testified that she was on her way to that location to give him a freak-off before he turns himself in or before they came to arrest him. They just got there before she did. What? Could you imagine if they had gotten there while he was in the middle of a freak-off, or while they were in the middle of a freak-off? Welcome back to the channel. It's BrainFLoTv. Oh, somebody asked me, are you Jamaican? Because of that flag right there. The flag says half Jamaican flag and a half American flag. That's because I am Jamaican. I'm Jamaican, born in Jamaica, raised in the United States of America. And I have a bigger channel on YouTube if you don't know about it. Most people that come here already know about my bigger channel, but my bigger channel is called freakoff. People see me over here and they're like, are you SoFlo? I'm the same person. Alright, but that's not what we came to talk about today. Go hit up my other channel as well, if it's your cup of tea. But to answer your question, yes, I am Jamaican/American. Anyways, we're talking about Diddy today. On October 3rd of 2025, Sean P. Diddy Combs will learn his fate. Sean P. Diddy Combs will know if he's going to be going to prison for 10, 15, 20 years, or if he's going to be walking out with time served. Let me adjust my chair a little bit so I don't have to bend into the camera. Okay, so let me tell you what's going on, and then we'll get into what I think. And then you can leave in the comment section what you think about what I said I think. This is how this YouTube stuff works. Alright, so Diddy will learn his fate on October 3rd. Diddy faces this October 3rd sentencing after his July conviction by a Manhattan jury on two what they call Mann Act charges that outlaw interstate commerce related to prostitution, and each charge carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. The name of the charge that Diddy was convicted on was transportation to engage in prostitution. Let's be on the same page, right? Transportation to engage in prostitution. I did my due diligence. I went into the law books. I looked up what is transportation to engage in prostitution as in definition by law, and also what penalties does it carry. Of course, in the law books, it tells you different types of penalties depending on if you're found guilty and what the age of your victim is, if you had victims, etc., etc. If you had no victims and it was just an adult taking another adult who willingly went with them to go engage in prostitution, let me put it raw cut. You took somebody to go buy some ass. You took somebody to go buy some pussy. You took somebody to go buy some dick. You took somebody to go pay to get engaged in some sexual intercourse or activities. You took them there. Right. It is illegal to take somebody to a location knowing that they're going there to engage in paid intercourse. So if your homie says to you, yo, drop me over 73rd Street by the Holiday Inn Hotel over there, and you say to him, what you going over there to do? And he goes, man, I got a little freak over there. Know what I mean? She charged me $150 for the hour. I'm going to beat the brakes off it for my $150. And you then recognize that as you paying for ass, boy? You paying now? And he like, yeah, it is what it is. But if you see her, she real bad, you would pay too. And you like, all right, man, come on. I'm going that way anyways. And you drive and you drop him over there. And somehow you get caught up in it. This is the charge that you end up with. You don't have to, apparently, you don't have to actually engage in the act. Now, that's a whole nother story in Diddy's case, because there is nobody in the United States of America that is facing that charge, the Mann Act charge, who did not engage in the act. So Diddy is the only person in the United States of America who is hit with this transportation to engage in prostitution charge, who did not actually engage in the act. If you remember his trial, Cassie and Jane, which we now know to be 50 Cent's baby moms, Cassie and Jane were the ones who engaged in the act. Diddy did take them to different locations, flew them out to other locations, took them across state lines to other locations, but in his trial, he was cleared by a jury of 12 of the other charges, which would have been serious. So if he took somebody to a location to go engage in sexual activities against their will, trafficking. He beat the trafficking charges because the jury looked at his case and said he wasn't trafficking them. Cassie was not trafficked by Sean P. Diddy Combs. Jane was not trafficked by Sean P. Diddy Combs. They had tumultuous relationship, yes, they testified to those. However, what we see is willing participation. So that's the reason why when he went to court on his trial, he beat the other charges, the racketeering, conspiracy charge, the sex trafficking charge. He beat all of those charges. He did not force anybody. He did not coerce anybody. He wasn't dragging and pulling anybody to go to do it. They did it. They had ample time and opportunities. They could have said, nope, I don't want to engage in that. That's not me. But they did it. Even Jane testified that she willingly, she even went to go look up on the internet and study, like trying to figure out why he liked doing these things, because she wanted to please him. Cassie said the same thing. She wanted to please him because she knows that that's what Sean is into, and she wants to make him happy. And those are the words that actually ended up costing them in the end, why he was able to beat the racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. The racketeering charges and all that, it all came down though to, did he use his business as a front? I don't know if you ever lived in places like Brooklyn or wherever. Like back in the day, they used to have these bodegas or these corner stores, and the corner store was really a front because they're running numbers in the back and they selling dope out the back, right? Weed, heroin, whatever you want, you could get it. But in the front of the store, they have like the potpourri house spray and the toilet papers and all kinds of stuff lining the front glass of the store. So the store looks as if it's packed, but when you walk in the store, it's just big and empty. And somebody in the back is going to ask you, yo, what you want? You know what I mean? So they were trying to say that that's what Diddy's businesses were. That he used Sean John, his clothing line. He used Bad Boy Records, his record company. He used all his businesses, his liquor line, whatever he was into, as fronts to pay for and to hide his engagement in trafficking people for sexual pleasures, which the jury found that to be bullshit, and that's why he ended up beating the racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. And on those charges, he would have actually been required to spend 15 years at a minimum, with the possibility of a full life sentence in prison. It was said that if he had blown trial, he would have had a minimum of 30 years behind bars. He escaped all that. That's why y'all seen him get off the chair and get down on his knees and put his face in the chair when he was in court after the verdict was read of him being not guilty, not guilty, not guilty on the racketeering charge, conspiracy charge, not guilty on the sex trafficking charge, not guilty, not guilty. Right. But transportation to engage in prostitution stayed on the books, which is what he is facing now. Now, I went and looked in the law books. I'll tell you what it says. It says, transportation to engage in prostitution is an illegal activity that carries a maximum of 10 years behind bars. 10 years. And that is providing that you did not transport a minor. If you transported a minor, then your time could be significantly more. This is a max. This is not mandatory 10 years. Max is the most amount of years they can give you by law, right? So each charge of that, because he has two: transportation to engage. He transported Cassie and he transported Jane to different locations to engage in sexual activities. Did I tell you all that? He's the only person in the United States of America who is serving time behind this, who did not actually partake in the sexual activity. Right. So, those charges, that's how he ends up looking at 20 years right now. Now, as everything sits right now, the same law book says people who are first-time offenders of this, transportation to engage, they're usually given 3 to 6 months in the county jail. Even second-time offenders are given about 3 to 6 months in the county jail. Diddy has done about 13 months so far. About that, a year and a month so far. Mind you, the book says first-time offenders are usually given 3 to 6 months in the county jail. He is a first-time offender. 3 to 6 months in the county jail, which would mean that at 13 months in and beating all his other charges, when his sentencing day comes October 3rd of 2025, he should actually fairly be let go with time served. Now, whatever else they want to do after that, if the judge wants to put him on probation for another 2 years or whatever, that's fine. If they want to make him pay some restitution and go do some community service and lecture to some people who are going down this path, that's fine. Use your influence in this kind of way, whatever. But he should not be serving any more time behind this charge, according to the law books. I said it before though, and I'll say it again. I did some research on Judge Subramanian. You know, there are a couple of documentaries floating around on the internet, I would say on YouTube and on other platforms, of people who come from the background that Judge Subramanian comes from. And throughout this whole trial, he has demonstrated exactly that. It is my opinion that a judge is not supposed to be partial. A judge is there to judge and guide the case, as in see what's going on and make sure no violations are happening on either sides, which means he has to be neutral in order to ensure a fair trial. That's what the judge is supposed to do. But if you watch Diddy's case, Judge Subramanian was very much leaning to the side of the prosecution. Everything the prosecution asked for, they got. Everything Diddy's attorneys requested or asked for, they were denied. Let me say it again. Everything the prosecution asked for, they got. They asked for one of the jury members to be dismissed last minute after sitting through the whole trial, only to be replaced by someone who is his complete opposite. A black man from the Bronx who is into 90s to 2000s hip-hop. That's his favorite genre of music. He was dismissed. And they hid that under, we weren't too sure about where he actually lives. Come on. The guy said when the trial started, he was living in the Bronx with his woman, right? And their children or child. And as the trial progressed, they moved because they were already planning a move. So they moved. I think she moved out to New Jersey. But he still stays in the Bronx at his auntie's house so he can attend the trial and do his jury duties. Plus, he works in that area anyways. So, and hadn't transferred yet out to Jersey where they moved to. So when the trial is over, he'll transfer out to Jersey and he'll go be with his family out there. They go, that sounds a bit too confusing. We're not sure. I think he lied about where he lives, actually. kick him off the jury and put somebody else on. They got Joe Schmo from the freaking suburbs, who's a doctor, a PhD degree holder that is Caucasian, that he does not like rap music, all the other stuff. They gave them that at last minute in the trial. When there was a mistrial move, like for instance, I want to be super specific. When the prosecution said to Diddy's team, hey, one of our girls are going to testify. We have a witness that's going to testify that Diddy beat her up and held her upside down outside of a window at a hotel in Los Angeles, scared the bejesus out of her. She could have lost her life, right? In the law, what is going to be used against you in court has to be shared with your attorney so that your attorney can mount a proper defense. Diddy's team was made aware. So Diddy's team did their work and they dug up proof that he was not even in California at the time this person is saying that he was there holding her out a window and all this stuff. You're talking about he was at a major event in New York for that extended period of time in that era. Couple of events, he was staying at a particular location. There are video cameras going back from that time that puts him there in person. They surrendered all of that to the prosecution. They said, look, I don't think it's wise to have this person go up there and testify that, because we already can prove that our client wasn't there. That's not a good testimony. That's a lie. They agreed. They said, okay, we're not going to do that kind of thing. And then they went ahead anyways and still called her up to the stand to testify. Now, what that does is that digs a hole for them to have to dig their client out of, because once the jury has heard this, the jury can't, oh, damn, he's moving like that, hanging her out the window. You know, she's on the stand, she's testifying, she's crying. It's emotional. But it's not true. And we proved to them it wasn't true before they even took it. So knowingly, they took a lie to the stand, even though we proved to them before they took it there. So judge, we're calling for a mistrial. This is Diddy's team. The judge says no mistrial. What we'll do is we will strike that from the record. Continue with the trial. How can you strike that from somebody's mind? From 12 people's minds who have heard you just say, he held me out the window upside down. And then you go, okay, guys, forget you heard that. Don't hold it against them. That's already been taken care of. Strike it from the record. Let's move forward. That was grounds for a dismissal. But Judge Subramanian gave that to the prosecution. I'm telling you, everything the prosecution asked for under Judge Subramanian, they got. Everything Diddy's team asked for, they did not get. And my research brought me to the level of disdain, hate, racism that exists in the culture and community that Judge Subramanian comes from. And I'm starting to think at this point that this is like more like personal for him. Like, this is more like he doesn't like African Americans. I'm not saying if people from your culture or your race are known to be super racist against a certain group, that you are just like everybody else from your race who is that way. Maybe he's an exception. Maybe it has nothing to do with race, but I'm thinking highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So with that said, I think there's another thing that factors into this that is going to factor into his sentencing as well. Now, y'all got to remember, Judge Subramanian's mentor, the person who he came up under before he got appointed to the position he is in now, and he's the first of his kind to ever been appointed to that position. Y'all go look this up. The person who he came up under was a judge who is far right-wing leaning individual. Very big on Trump. Now you got to remember, Diddy reached out to Trump for a pardon. Trump said, nah, I don't think that's going to happen. Because, you know, we were cool before. I don't know what happened. I ran for president and you turned against me and started saying nasty things. So the ball is in my court now. I got power. I'm not pardoning you. My fans wouldn't like it. My supporters wouldn't like it. And I don't think it's something I should do. It's going to be very difficult to do that. Now, as it stands, the president might wait until Diddy is actually sentenced and then pardon him. Now, you know, they don't just pardon you like that. You're probably going to be owing something down the road, right? Like a Kodak Black. Kodak Black got pardoned, and then Kodak Black was on a campaign trail during the campaign for presidency. Same thing for NBA YoungBoy. After he now flaunts his support, he says anything that the president is doing is good and is right for the youths, right? Before that, he was hemmed up with the law. Now, back to Diddy's story. So the Bad Boy Records founder was exonerated in the more serious racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking charges. Beat those. Those are out the way. What's happening next? He has served over a year in one of the most notorious jails in America. Yet, he has made most of this punishment useful. It is time for Mr. Combs to go home to his family so that he can contribute his treatment and so that he can continue his treatment, his attorneys say, and try to make the most of the next chapter of his extraordinary life. His lawyers are asking for no time. Let him out with time served. But if you must sentence him to time, Judge, let it be a sentence of 2 years and nothing more. The prosecution has not entered their amount of time they are suggesting to the judge. However, they have said that they plan to enter something over 4 years, along the lines of between 4 to 5 years behind bars. I'll put it to you like this. That's bad, because Diddy doesn't want to be in prison any more than he has to. Nobody wants to be in prison a day longer than they have to. I'm in there, you found out it wasn't me, please let me out immediately, right? I would even prefer to fight from home instead of having to go there. And then if I'm exonerated, I have never been inside, and I don't want to know what inside looks like. The man got a whole life to get back to, right? Right, so he's trying to get out the best he can. They rejected Judge Subramanian again, even after he got found not guilty of the conspiracy and racketeering and sex trafficking. He beat all those charges. His attorneys came and said, okay, we're putting a $50 million bail packet on the table. Send him home, Judge. He just beat all those charges. The judge said no. Denied them again. Remember I told you everything that Diddy's attorneys requested was denied. Everything the prosecution requested was given, which told me that the judge was actually not being impartial, but was being very partial and leaning towards helping the prosecution to secure a conviction. If Diddy didn't have money and to afford all these attorneys, his ass would be in prison for a long time to come. Because even the judge, who was supposed to be impartial, was working against him in this case. Now, what they're saying here is Mr. Combs' career and his reputation has been destroyed. This is what they wrote. They said that his life outside of jail has been systematically dismantled. They said his life outside of jail has been systematically dismantled. You know, among other things, they also said that he had to let go over 100 employees from his business, and many of them have been unable to find jobs anywhere else because of their past association with him. So over 100 people have lost their jobs because he's fighting this case and he's incarcerated, and he's having to kind of like put his energy where or his money where it is needed the most at the minute, right? Everything is kind of like on pause for him. His 7 children have faced devastating consequences as well, including lost business opportunities in acting, in television, in fashion, in concerts, with some of them being included in some of the 100 employees that have been laid off because they were employed by their father. His children don't have to work for nobody else. They work for him or for the family business rather. So they do contracts with other companies through him, right? That's dope. That's dope. To be able to provide for your children in this manner, where their whole life is like luxury and they have access to bigger things, that's exactly what a dad is supposed to do. You know, I remember when Diddy was going up for trial, the prosecution asked the judge to put restrictions on his family because his birthday had came around. And when the judge granted this was the first time I said, okay, let me go look up this judge's background, because I see that he's Indian, and I know a lot of Indians who don't like black people. I'm not saying all of them don't, but I know a lot who don't. So let me go look up his background, because the request was this from the prosecution. This is before his trial even began. His birthday came around, and his children, all 7 of them, got together and they lit a cake or a candle on a cupcake or a cake or something, and they blew it out and they sang happy birthday to their dad in the video. The prosecution said that they were trying to influence the crowd and influence the jury pool, the possible jury pool. Could you imagine that? Their daddy's birthday came around and they sang happy birthday, and the prosecutor said they're trying to influence the jury pool, so they need to put restrictions on them so they stay away from social media. And basically what they wanted was, they didn't want anybody who was a potential juror to see his children all together. They wanted to push the narrative that this is a black man who has multiple children by multiple different women. They're not together. They're all over the place. His life is in disarray. He is somebody who is just wild and out there, and there's no structure to his shit, when it is the complete opposite. He is a shrewd businessman. His family is very much together and super protected. And he is a good dad to every one of his children. And they all know each other. And they are all very close to each other. That image, they didn't want that to be shown, because they were coming with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, gangster shit, you know. And they had to sell that personality and that type and that image that they were building. And I couldn't believe that the judge actually gave a warning to them based on that request from the prosecution. Now, mind you, let's keep it fair and balanced. In the same breath, you had everybody coming out the woodworks. 12-year-old girl says she got picked up and raped at a after party or the VMA's party by Sean P. Diddy Combs. They let that fly out into the public, right? Another person over here, a woman says this and boy says this, and when he was a teenager, he wanted to be a superstar, and somebody took him to meet Diddy when he was 9, and he ended up getting his life changed to the point where he hates anything that has to do with entertainment because this is what Diddy did to him. They let all that out into the public. No proof required. But this man's children singing him happy birthday caused such an offense that you had to ask the judge, Your Honor, they're trying to manipulate the crowd and possibly taint our jury pool, singing their daddy happy birthday all together on camera. As if this isn't something they do every year anyways. Anybody that knows Diddy and has followed him over the years, Diddy always had something huge going on for his birthday. And his children were always involved. But hey, I digress. So, his lawyers have noted that, you know, his whole life has changed, man. He's done over a year and a month now, 13 months going, counting. And of course, you know, He had to let go over 100 employees, including some of his children, and they are affected in their personal lives because they've missed many opportunities in fashion, acting, concert participation, you know, jobs, ads, commercials, whatever else they were involved in, modeling opportunities. I just saw his daughters do a model campaign for some brand. I don't even remember what brand it was. And I was like, damn, them little girls are grown up already. They look like, you know, like models for the runway. His twin daughters. So, and that was recently. So there are opportunities out there for them. And some of those opportunities were taken off the table because of what their dad's going through, is what his attorneys are trying to convey to the judge. With some of them being included in some of nearly 100 civil lawsuits that are filed against their father since his arrest. 100 civil lawsuits of people coming out the woodwork saying, Diddy touched me. He touched me in 1994. He touched me in 2007. He touched me in 2020. He touched me in... And most of these, you look at the details, and he wasn't even in that city or that state. Sometimes he wasn't even in the country altogether. But those are going to have to be sorted out after. He has a long uphill battle to fight with these civil lawsuits. The lawyers also said that Diddy and his family were set to star in a Hulu show about their lives, like a biopic. But the show was canceled once these allegations against him became public. All these major networks need to be sued. All these major networks promoted the image. Honestly, when Diddy's case came up, the way how the major news media had us out here, civilians, believing that everything was true, I was personally, I was actually looking to see little girls, little boys, children involved in this case heavily. He's a part of that Hollywood weird ring of, oh, we found a tunnel under his mansion that leads to another tunnel that leads to, and he has one in Orlando, Florida, and the tunnel leads to Disney World playground. And they aired all these things on major news networks and had us thinking, damn, Diddy was really into, and 10,000 bottles of baby oil. And oh, he must have needed all them baby oil for all them little damn kids and whatever. You know, they spun a narrative that we saw when trial came. Y'all seen the trial? When the trial came, everybody, even people who wanted him to go to prison for years, who actually took the time to watch the trial unfold, they came back like, okay, this is a domestic issue that should have went to the domestic courts. Why is it in federal court? He and Cassie were together for over a decade. She had over a decade to even call the police once. She had over a decade to even run once. Tell somebody once. Jane is over here getting all her bills paid and sending him messages, which they showed in court. Thank you for taking the time to put so much effort into the details of organizing my birthday. This is a birthday where he organized for multiple men to have intercourse with her, and after she was done, she is texting him how much she enjoyed that. So they really did a number on his reputation. You know, Diddy was removed from the board of 3 charter schools that he created in Harlem and the Bronx in Connecticut, and he was stripped of his honorary doctorate degree from Howard University, which plans to return his prior donations to him as well. Howard is his alma mater. He gave hefty financial donations to Howard University. They're planning on giving him back his money. Like, we don't want your money, you could keep it and give us back our honorary degree kind of thing. Now, meanwhile, Diddy's life in prison has been harrowing at times. There are stories here of people trying to shank him up while he's in there and him having to talk his way out of it. His attorney said, you know, as much as it's been harrowing being behind bars for him, it has also allowed him the time to be completely sober for the first time in 25 years. Diddy lives a rock star life, y'all. You know, who doesn't have hundreds of millions of dollars, yachts and private jets, and controls your own schedule, and you're out here living free. Anything I want, I get. And then at a certain point, it takes an abnormal mindset to actually get to these levels. You don't get to these levels just quietly, right? Especially as a black man in this world. So there's got to be a little bit of thin line between crazy and insanity and genius kind of thing. And he straddled that line very well. Let's be fair. Right. So he's in prison now. This guy's in here trying to stab him up. It is said that on one occasion, another inmate approached Diddy with a shiv, which is a shank, right? And accused him of sitting in a chair that he wanted to sit on. I told you not to sit on my chair. This is my chair, my dude. But Diddy calmly defused the situation and had the man put away his makeshift weapon or his shank. They said that he has been under constant suicide watch the whole time he's been in there, meaning every 2 hours he must present his identification card to the guards to show them that he is him and he is alive and well, and he is awakened from his sleep in a brightly lit cell by a guard to ensure he is well. The lights never go off in his cell. He's always under bright lights. He covers his head under a thick blanket to go to sleep to get some kind of, you know, darkness, create an ambiance. I have blackout curtains in my house. When it's time for me to go to sleep, I pull my blackout curtains shut. My room is dark as hell. It feels like it's nighttime. I rack out, right? He also has limited access to clean water, and leaving him to heat and water that he drinks to ensure it won't make him sick. He must sleep within 2 feet of other inmates in a dorm-style room containing a bathroom with no door. So you got to use the toilet in front of everybody else, just like everybody else in there. That's what jail is. And that's the kind of life he's been living. This is somebody who was found not guilty of everything, except for the transportation to engage. Mr. Combs has not breathed fresh air in nearly 13 months or felt sunlight on his skin. And y'all know he loved the beach and outdoors. After walking with a limp due to a painful knee injury that required surgery, they said that the food they added sometimes contains maggots in the food. That's the kind of food they're serving them back there. So he's scared about what he's eating and all that other stuff. Now, prior to the trial, the lawyer said the prosecution offered Diddy a plea deal that would have recommended a prison sentence of at least 25 years. And it would have required him to plead guilty to crimes of which he was acquitted. So when they offered Diddy the plea deal, here was all of us saying, boy, he better take that deal. This is before trial. He better take that deal because they about to bury your ass, boy. Now, after we watched the trial, we were like, damn, he knows why he didn't take the deal. And I'm glad he didn't take the deal because, look, he's acquitted of everything. He's acquitted of everything. So imagine him taking that deal and them hitting him with 25 years when if he was brave enough to take it to trial, he would have been acquitted just like he was. So they portrayed their client as a changed man who has realized that his overuse of drugs, including some prescribed by doctors, has contributed to violent acts that he participated in. Without minimizing Mr. Combs' conduct, this is the prosecution talking. Without minimizing Mr. Combs' conduct, this is in many ways a sex, drugs, and rock and roll story. Mr. Combs had severe substance abuse problems throughout the entirety of the offense conduct and participating in a high-octane celebrity lifestyle. That's Diddy's lifestyle. It was 100% on go, feet, gas pedal to the metal, full speed ahead type. Remember when Shorty testified that she had the most amazing night with him? She had a freak off where multiple guys again did their thing with her, and then after that, the highlight of the night for her was to go lay down with Diddy and cuddle with him and watch his favorite Netflix series. And they asked, and did y'all have sex then after? And she said yes. And that was the highlight of her night, rubbing his body down, massaging him with oils and stuff like that. And she fell asleep. And when she woke up, he was in Turks and Caicos with another, with another woman. And she said that pissed her off. And that was the first time she texted him and used the freak off as a weapon, because she wanted him to dump that other female and get back to her. So she said, no more freak offs after this, because she mad. He eventually ended up ending that trip early, coming back. They didn't speak for a little while. He booked her own Turks and Caicos trip getaway, and she went. And they started talking again. Anyways, am I supposed to believe that he is so dangerous to the world that he needs to be locked up for years? I don't buy it. I don't see it. And they could stop hanging on to that now. Diddy wasn't bothering nobody the whole time he was out here before. The days before leading up to his initial arrest, or to his arrest, when they took him out of that hotel, he was in Miami in his mansion. He got word from his legal team, yo, they about to hand down this indictment. They're going to want to do an arrest on you. We don't know if you're going to walk out the same time, but you could be released on bail pending trial, or they could hold you until your trial. And he goes, okay, what do I need to do? They said, well, don't let them have to arrest you all the way in Miami and shackle you up and put you on a plane to extradite you to New York like you're Hannibal Lecter, committed some huge crime, done ate somebody's face off and got bodies in a basement or something. How about you fly to New York and be close to them so they could just walk down the street and grab you? Why y'all think he was walking around in the streets hours before he was arrested? 2 days or so before he was arrested. Because he wanted them to know his location. He wanted them to not only know his location, but he wanted the world to see, I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm not out here doing anything to anybody. I'm Sean P. Diddy Combs. A lot of people know me. People started rushing to him in the streets. He's out there signing autographs, taking pictures with people. This is a couple of days leading up to his arrest. Even up to the last day before his arrest. I can't help but to think that Diddy knew that they weren't going to let him out. So even in that hotel room, they found the pink cocaine. and they found the baby oils and the condoms and whatnot. And Jane testified that she was on her way to that location to give him a freak off before he turns himself in, or before they came to arrest him. They just got there before she did. What? Could you imagine if they had gotten there while he was in the middle of a freak off, or while they were in the middle of a freak off? But Diddy was trying to get one in. I think the brother was addicted to sex, man. And you know, when you got that much money and that much power, and you've been around the world twice, 3 times. There's probably nothing you haven't seen or done or had access to or whatever. So you get into weird shit to try to satisfy your curiosity, because your curiosity is not a normal person's curiosity. Your curiosity is heightened. Regular broke people, we say stuff like, that's wild. That's in the back of my mind, I would try that. But we don't go trying it. Now for people like Diddy, they've tried it a million times. It's time to do something new. Let's up the ante, let's do this. And we're like, let's do what? You know? End of the day, October 3rd will tell what it is that's going to happen to him. My prediction is that Judge Subramanian is going to try to hit him with a couple of years. But I'm hoping not. In an ideal world, and if justice is truly served, I would think that he would be hit with time served and he would be allowed to go home. But the state doesn't want to make itself look bad, and the judge is not in the business of making the state look bad, because they just lost a whole RICO case that everybody saw should have been a domestic case at best. It wasn't no RICO trial, which clearly shows that they were after his assets and they were after him for some other kind of reason other than trying to get justice for victims who were trafficked or whatever. In Diddy's charges that he has, transportation to engage, because he was cleared of the sex trafficking, which means he did not traffic Cassie or Jane, that means Cassie or Jane should have been his co-defendants. That means they should be also charged with transportation to engage, because he didn't traffic them. The jury said he didn't traffic them. He transported them to go get some ass or to go get some sex, and they willingly went. That's where I learned that that was their deal with the state. They really didn't want to testify against Diddy, but they too could have been hit with transportation to engage. So the deal was testify against him on behalf of the prosecution. We won't press these charges on you. We'll lay it all on him. So they sold him up the river to save themselves. And it's all clear now. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. And if you like these talking head videos that I do here, because I'm starting to do more of them on this channel, then hit that subscribe button so we could continue to give you more of what you like. And if there are any other topics out there you see that you think I need to go do some research on for you and come talk to you about it, please show it to me so I can do just that. All right, I'm out. Peace.